Hello Sagittarius, welcome back to my channel, The Vibes Inside. I am Mariana and I'm ready with your reading. Sagittarius, like the other signs, I have a reading here that somehow reflects back on last week's reading for the Virgo, where there was this like a massive hit that came in and was very destructive. Libra and Scorpio have been dealing with the yin and yang, you could say, kind of a damage control of that kind of situation, and it's still lingering around here now for me, even for you. Libra dealing with something in a yin way, in a rejuvenating state, needing to be yin-like to heal from a massive hit, which we normally do. When we are sick, we stay in bed, we slow down, we slow our pace down, we rest. Scorpio has a different approach, right? It's a little more feisty, and it was quite an intense, long, confusing kind of reading I had for Scorpio. You can look at it if you want to, but the point of this is that Scorpio was in this state of feeling so frustrated that something happened, and now they're standing with the aftermath of something. Something was destroyed, and now they're kind of standing with the aftermath, not wanting to let it go, right? They're doing the heart massage to kind of keep something alive. You could say it's being enmeshed in the problem, right? You're standing right there in the chaos, and you kind of have to do something. Scorpio is yang energy. Libra is yin energy. So there are two different approaches to deal with some kind of chaos situations. So we have to have those in mind. Like Libra is doing something and Scorpio is doing something, and then you come in, Sagittarius, here. And well, I talked about in the Scorpio reading also how it's interesting that Virgo got the hit. Up till Virgo, there had been no hit. And after Virgo, everybody is now dealing with the aftermath of something. We can even see it a bit like those that, let's say, we have two siblings that grow up in the same household. One carries many planets of the first 6, you could say, let's say, zodiac signs. So Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and a bit of the Virgo, the best of the Virgo, before the hit, right? If they carry most planets here, they're probably more jolly. They're probably more trusting. They're probably more like enthusiastic. Let's go and do this, right? And those who carry many of the other planets, they have a more like, you would say, again, it's this yin and yang thing, right? That there was this hit that came in, created a split, or what I call the third dimensional duality understanding. I believe that this is something that happened way back, and we carry some kind of inherited memory of something. So for you, Sagittarius, you being on the other side, that we have the first 6 zodiacs, jolly, happy, everything is fine, let's have a party, it's nice. We could even say that it has to do with the first part of life, the first half of life. We are enthusiastic, we have the strength, our body works fine, nothing has happened really to us. We go out there, we are ready for this journey. Let's get moving. And then it's like you get to middle age, Virgo energy, and this is where something could come in that breaks something. Maybe it's your body, maybe it's your heart, right? Maybe it's illusions about life, feeling betrayed, things like that. And after that, the world is now seen in a different, like with different glasses, right? In the Scorpio reading, I had this tune come in. Do you believe in love after love? Like, with the first zodiac signs, there's this openness and it's easy. Let's go. Let's just have fun. We believe in people. We trust in people. We just go out there and it's great, right? Until it's not. So we can love until something happens. And do you then believe in love again? Like, can you accept love again in the same matter as how you did before this happened? Or will you somehow have this, I'm cautious, right? The first zodiacs, no, they're not cautious. Well, not unless they hold many of the other, the 6 other zodiacs. As I mentioned in like in the Scorpio reading, I'm a Cancer Sun, I'm a Cancer Mercury. Great, that's on the first side. But then I'm a Gemini Venus, also on the first side. Great. But I'm a Virgo Moon. The hit, bang, right? I am a Capricorn rising. I'm a Sagittarius Neptune. I'm a Jupiter Scorpio. I have a like Pluto is Scorpio. So I have planets that even though I do hold some of the other first, I actually have a dominance of the others. I'm just wondering if that has an effect on my worldview, that it's some kind of inheritance, right? That because and that inheritance that we can program ourselves with the stories that may actually linger in our subconscious mind that we are not even aware. It's like a tape recorder that just goes on and it just keeps playing. We don't even know we are hearing it. We're not even aware. Because today, Sagittarius, you come across as I want to do like this, the truth-telling news reporter. Like after this hit, splang, this came in. Libra, kind of, wow, what am I going to do? I need to reduce, I need to heal from this hit, right? So I need a place to rest. I need to, like we do with the body, right? That if it gets a hit, if we break something, we need to rest that arm, right? We need it to be maybe, like contained somehow. Maybe we need bandages or something. Maybe we need to keep it in a more stagnant position for a period of time until we can actually use it again. So the yin way, and then we have the yang way. The yang way is, I talked about the yang womb needing to create like the container. As I said, maybe you need bandages, maybe you need to fixate, like the position needed to be fixated. with some kind of uh, I don't know, cloth or something, or a belt, but it needs some kind of container. It needs to be, it's like damage control. We need to contain this, right? So that it's not like escalating. Like now, we need to kind of like do something with this, right? Control it somehow. So Scorpio wants control and somehow contain what's going on. Now you come in, Sagittarius, after this, and I've had this come in from yesterday, and also it's interesting how when I'm finished with one reading, and the Scorpio was extremely intense and all over the place, and when I'm kind of done with them, then the new one comes in, like then your information started to come, right? And I had these like narratives come in, and how the narratives can control our behavior, our thought patterns, what we speak. I have the hot chili speaking this like flame of the front picture for these readings, right? That what you speak becomes truth for you, right? What you believe in becomes truth and identity, and how these stories can linger and like keep a loop running, right? Of course, you could say for a life, if we see the zodiacs as a life cycle with a beginning and an end, a beginning and an end. So Aries is the beginning, Pisces is the end. So when you get to Virgo, it's like you are in between. Now you have come to, I don't know, maybe your 40s. And from that time, things are different than it was before, right? So you could say there is a peak of something where things only go up, yay, up, and then it's like, right? The feeling that well, things definitely change, perhaps. As I said, maybe you get a health issue, maybe you experience some kind of breakup, maybe you hurt someone. Like, let's say you're the car driver, you crash into someone. You are the one who is crashed into. You you can have a health issue. That's very Virgo-like, also health oriented. Maybe your marriage is broken up. You get a divorce, and there are things you need to deal with because of that. And after that experience, things are different. It's not like before. You see, and this is where you are now, after Scorpio's trying to like contain whatever's happening here, this chaos, trying to create a container womb for all these kinds of emotions. This is where we try to keep ourselves together after something terrifies us, or like we try to keep up appearance, but underneath it all, it's kind of everything is just panic or chaos, right? But we try to keep it together somehow. But actually holding a very intense energy. You get my point? Like, that's where that's what Scorpio can do, right? It tries to keep like a lid on something here, while something is changing and going through some kind of wild process. And this is where, again, where I feel like the chili with this, the fire spitting image there, it's because a truth, a new truth happens right there. There has been a life up till this doing hit, and then it changes from that way forward. Maybe you've had several, I don't know, but at least there's one massive one, and it changes something. From that day forward, life is not as it was here. Now you have to consider something. And this is where I feel like it's more of there's a fear of something here. Like from this day forward and onwards, like that way forward, that something has changed. And again, it depends on where you may have Virgo in your chart, right? So it's not necessarily that it happens when you're 50. It could happen when you're 6, if you're a child. But the point is that after this Virgo experience, onwards, there is a narrative, a story that dominates. And this is where you come in, Sagittarius, because I have the 4 of Earth here as overall energy. This would be the 4 of Pentacles, which is a card of worrying, sense of lack mentality, worrying if you have enough, that you're safe, feeling unsafe actually, worrying about I want to say worrying about life. So it could be, of course, a monetary, financial constraints, but it goes even further than it's all kinds of feeling safe. Safe in your body, safe in finances, safe in love, safe in life here on Earth, writes that life here is, it's like, you know, that when your nervous system gets activated, it's difficult to just shut it down. If you have a panic attack or your survival mechanisms are activated, then it's not the same life now. Like, it's not as it was before. Something has, like, as I said in the Scorpio reading, it's like doom touched you, or death touched you like that. Just a little poke. And now you live with this awareness that you didn't have before. But it's like it's something that we preferably we would take in and just throw it away like it never happened, and then we could continue on our journey here without that knowledge. But it's like a knowledge and awareness that you didn't have before, and because it's there now, you can't not see it. Especially if it's like really massive in whatever way. It could be, you know, like a massive betrayal from people around you. Depend on where Virgo is in your chart. What house and everything, right? It could be a work situation. Let's say you've been working on a project and someone has secretly behind your back taken all the credit for it. that would be a massive hit, right? That would be like an enormous betrayal. It could be someone gossiping and gaslighting about you, and they have created an entire story about you that now leads to you getting sacked, you losing your job, perhaps, right? Something like it. It has this impact. So it depends on where it is in your chart, what house and the placements. But and we all do have Virgo somewhere in our chart. Those who carry the Virgo in personal planets, I would say it probably is more evident. Like it's a feeling. Yeah, it's like a feeling that life is just not, doesn't feel safe here. So if you live with an awareness like that, how do you make it safe? To clarify this card here, I have the coyote. So the coyote is, I'm going to read from the book because it describes it quite well here. It says, the coyote is the symbol of the sacred trickster, the one who provides detours for growth and understanding by ensuring that things don't go as planned. So the coyote brings the energy of divine deception to set you free from the shackles of that which don't serve you. Sometimes it appears that you will get everything you want, only to find that coyote brings you the opposite of what you hoped for. The lessons offered by coyote may at first appear confusing or damaging, but they are most sacred and always for your highest good. So, so in the midst of all this worrying here, because the coyote has been sending this detour in, this damage, something else happens here. I see how she is like, she looks like she has a quite fertile hair, you could say here, or upper brain, perhaps your crown chakra. And it's like, it's almost like she gets antlers here that acts like antennas. Sometimes I see Sagittarius as the philosophers, like they're looking for a truth that is more than the obvious. Like there is something, again here, even the idea of the coyote, right, that there is such a thing as a divine deception for our highest good, that is even a thing, right? This is where that when you are in the midst of some kind of despair here, or worry, or a lack feeling, or a feeling of health problem, or like in the midst of the chaos and trying, like to keep yourself together, we may search for something else, right? This is where we could be searching for. This is the driver, underlying energy for your reading, that something else may come in here in the search of getting ourselves out of this situation here. That yes, we need rejuvenation, what Libra stands for. And Libra is all about balance. So restoring balance is important. Scorpio contains everything. I call it the yang womb energy, that reading. Like needing to keep everything in. And then this chaos must somehow find its rest at some point. But it could be, you know, like dealing with post-traumatic stress, but still trying to look normal, that kind of thing. But actually, there's this feeling that it keeps staying with you. So Alpha Scorpio has done everything they could, this damage control, to keep everything on kind of in somehow. In the Scorpio reading, there's this non-radical acceptance of something is gone, like they don't accept it. They keep doing the heart massage of what was before. So they are trying to keep this alive, even though it has now received a hit, and it now must go forward from this place, right? But the Scorpio is like in this control where it says, no, I want this back, right? I'm keeping the heart massage going because this was better, right? It was not split. It was not this good and bad, that people are now good or bad. So there's a time that was more trusting here, and now there's a time of mistrust or distrust, or like, you know, so something split. There's a before and an after. And in the after, there's this feeling of worrying. Like just this worrying that life is not quite that safe, right? Actually, something can happen to me. It could be anything, you know, like in the first years, this is where you're young, vibrant, your body looks perhaps greatest, right? So when you get to these 40s or something like this, it depends on where this happened. It could happen when you're a child also, but or it could happen even when you're 70, perhaps, depending on, as I said, where do you have your Virgo and which house and so on. But the point is that it's like it changes everything. And there is some kind of understanding that maybe this, let's get going and let's do something, that maybe I can't trust that. Like, I did that, but now I'm here, right? Now this happened, and it creates a second guessing, or it creates this. And now another tape recorder comes in and starts recording here, right? Because now there is another truth to the matter. The way I have conducted my life up till now was in one way, but I can't not know this. Like I can't just delete it from my memory. So when I now know this, how do I move forward then? As I said, do you believe in love after love? Can you somehow love again, even though you met this one here? Even though this came in with the awareness, and you have to move forward now with this awareness. So you are fire sign, Sagittarius, but your fire is different than the Aries and Leo. Aries and Leo is before the hit. You have a different awareness, and I believe that, and you can just comment on this, I'm just thinking out loud. This is a theory I have, right? That all Sagittarius, if you incarnate as a Sagittarius and not an Aries and not a Leo, you will have a different life. You can compare it. Just look at your siblings. Let's say you have an Aries sibling. How do they go about life? Aries can be quite impulsive. This is what I want, I go get it. They don't even think about like, what could happen. They just go and get it, right? Where you would probably, like, yeah, I want that, but let's have a look. I'm going to make some research, right, before I take action, right? There is this, like the last part, we could talk about this impulsiveness of young life, and then the wisdom of the elder here, right? Starting, I feel like it comes in with, starts actually with Libra. It starts with, like, from that perspective of the, you could say, the middle of Virgo, having the doom realization. I have even talked about that Virgos tend to want to stay up. Like they are interested in health, staying young, staying vibrant, have this like doing good, sometimes bit virtuous. Like that you can never put a finger on them. Like they always make sure that they are somehow perfect for the occasion. Like you can't put a finger on their work, you can't put a finger on their home, it's spotless. Like they always, they're clean, they dress appropriate, always. Never too much, never too little. You know, like they have this like this, it's like a memory. Like they know that they have to stay up, because at some point the doom comes, this hit comes, right? And when it actually comes, it's like they are almost not prepared. They are unprepared. It's like this. How could this happen? Like I've done everything I could, right? I've done everything I could. How could this happen? How could this happen, right? So it's almost like it blows their entire understanding, and they now have to face something. And this is, then the Libra comes in, then the Scorpio comes in, and now you are here. So now you are philosophizing. You are now thinking about this. You're trying to understand the detour. Like, why couldn't it just continue, right? You're trying to understand it, like there must be some kind of meaning to this. This is where I feel religion is created, right? This idea that there's something else. This is where we search for deeper meaning, where, and the Atlas grow here. Like we understand that there's something beyond us that is also affecting us. This is the thing that we will probably not really admit in the first phase before the hit here. Like in this phase here, we are kind of consumed about our own ego. Let's go out and have fun, and I don't care about parents, I don't care about my, like, I just want to party, I just want to have fun, right? Yay, let's move here, right? And then, bang, right? Then we meet some kind of other reality that kind of shakes us, probably to the core. And when that happens, it's like we have to stop and kind of do something else, right? And in that process, right, where we are worrying here, and this can be like this ongoing, maybe not dominant perhaps for you, Sagittarius, but like it's there, right? I have to be cautious, or I have to research, as I said. I'm doing research before I take some kind of action. I'm aware that there are things that actually can impact me that I may not know about. Again, as I said, the hit here, it could be, you know, like you are in a car crash, but you were not the one who made the crash. You were the one receiving it, perhaps, right? You were as I said, the Virgo energy, usually they are unprepared. It's something that happens while you are kind of unprepared. And you may think, it was not my fault, right? They did this, right? So I was unprepared. And when I'm kind of unprepared, it actually hits even more. Like, you know, if your wife suddenly comes home and says, I want a divorce, you feel that it's out of the blue. You didn't see it coming. You didn't anticipate it. You feel like you feel like you've done what you could for this marriage. Like you've really put in effort, and now they're saying they want to leave. You know, like, and it scatters your entire world. There's this, and here I feel like, yeah, the philosopher comes, the one that thinks a bit deeper about things. And if I must take action on something, I prepare, I research, I can still have fun, but maybe I'm prepared to use my intuition more. Like I'm maybe asking God, you know, it could be here people may come religious here. Or they dive into something that is, well, the high priest is usually, you know, like she can, and I see it here as I've said it before with when this card come out. It's like something that has been a bit behind a veil is now kind of seeing through. Like suddenly it's like you connect with something, your intuition perhaps, like there's a voice here, or this idea that when you look a bit deeper at the disruption, you will see something else. Like you will realize there was a deeper meaning to this. Like this detour was because I was maybe too, you know, like, maybe I was too trusting. Maybe I was not aware that the way I'm living my life is not for my highest good. The people around me, maybe I shouldn't give them the benefit of doubt, you know, like maybe I should, or the endeavors that I have gotten myself into are actually very unhealthy for me or something. And then, you know, like when the hit comes, it's like this feels devastating, and it feels like, how could this happen? But when we have gotten through the first damage control, like when we have gotten through the Libra and the Scorpio, the utmost damage control, it's like we're still here. We still continue on the process here forward. So how do I now do that when I now know this? So this can be about people in your life, right? It could be, again, it's not, maybe not safe for me to drive a car. Or if I'm not careful about my spending, I will not have enough money for at the end of the month, you know, like maybe you are evicted from your resident or your place where you live, you know, like suddenly all your things are in the street. The bills have not been paid, like, and you're kind of just, but I thought that my husband paid for it, right? And how could and he's gone, you know, like this. It's something that comes in that we were not prepared for it. We thought that it was safe, like up till this hit. This phase is rather trusting and believing everything is all right. I'm all right, and those that are around me are all right, you know, and so now we are seeking perhaps refuge. Like this could be again where people become religious, like they need to feel safe somehow, even though they are not, like they have encountered something that kind of shook them. So in order to have some kind of relief of this frustration and fear perhaps, or anger, whatever it could be, there is this recognition that maybe there's something bigger than me. Like it's this idea that when you realize that you are not just a person like living your life. No, you are a tiny little thing on a planet in a giant cosmos. Like it's this realization, actually I'm a little creature here. But there's so much out there. Right? This is where when you go about your life and you suddenly hear some kind of news story that that there is a meteor that has been discovered and it potentially could hit the Earth. You know, like that something could affect me in such a way that I'm no longer safe. So from being in this ego existence of I just go about my life to just like having this bigger awareness that I can try to do everything I can to keep myself safe, but actually I'm not. Every day I go out and start my car, I could be in a car crash, you know, like, and those thoughts could take over. Again, this could be, you know, like thoughts of, or the narratives that are now playing here. And this is where you're the news reporter here. Which stories are playing? Like in your back of your mind and those you speak. Because it becomes your truth, it becomes your identity, and it becomes how your life is and what you attract. So Sagittarius, you hold a story. I feel again. I see like you represent for me. You know, like the storytellers around the bonfire that speaks the stories of triumph and victory over the bear hunt to the young in your family. This is where we talk about tribe, Indian tribes around the bonfire, and the elders, the news report, the story, those who keep track on the stories. And this is you, Sagittarius. You keep track on the stories because you have been around enough. Like you have, as I said, you have been living your life until the hit. And you are now here, right? So you can tell the story about, you can also tell the story about the hit, and you can tell the story about what to be what we must warn our children about. You know, you are the one, you carry a narrative here, an understanding, and that narrative is passed on to others through what you speak here, your identity also. So how you see yourself also, right? This is where I feel it's extremely important. And this, you know, like there's no Indian tribe who is not worshipping their ancestors or some kind of spirit. And I have it here like the high priestess and then daughter spirit here, right? It's like, because something happened here and you're worrying, this trickster came in, an abrupt a disruption. It feels like like a terrible situation, and from that experience, that threat, you can create a narrative, like a narrative of, let's say, Nostradamus, the story of doom, right? The end is near, and that you can keep that running. One big story, the more dramatic the story is, the more headlines it could make, the more impact it has. I've been considering like this idea of Jesus, the idea of Jesus in the Bible. I believe that the story of Jesus is even more potent because he was crucified. Then he became a martyr, right? It not only was he God's son, most beautiful healer energy, peacekeeper. He was not a warrior, right? Even when he was sentenced to death, he was not fighting it. He embraced like total peace with that situation, which would go against our fear, our amygdala, our fear center, right? Like being sentenced to death would awaken maybe panic and fear and everything, right? But he was just calm, right? And the idea that he was crucified, what story is that, right? It's such a story that you take an energy that is so non-threatening and you kill it. And the way it was done, because a king felt threatened by him, right? Jesus, walking in his sandals with no weapons, but his God light, that was the only thing he had, and his healer abilities. Otherwise, he was a man. He had no weapons. He had God trust. He trusted in whatever would happen, right? He wouldn't go against it. And he sacrificed himself for us, all us sinners, right? That makes the story of Jesus even more potent, right? Do you agree? Like, it makes it even more potent. Let's just think about if Jesus had lived his life from he was born till he died naturally, being a healer, healing people, the blind, and creating all kinds of beautiful healer work, talking about God and God light, but he went through life and he had a natural death. Would that be the same story then? I don't think so. Like it's like the news media, right? That the bigger the more terrible it is, the more we remember it, right? The more it doesn't make sense, right? The more it's challenging all our values, everything in us. The more it comes out of the blue, as I said, being unprepared, the more it's this is where it becomes a headline, right? This is where it becomes big, even in our own inner world. That if you receive a massive hit like that, like a meteor impact, right? A big meteor impact, it creates a big crater or scar or wound, right? And when it's big enough, potent enough, and unfair enough, and all this stuff, then it kind of overshines everything else. Now it's the top story, even if you're in your own mind. It becomes the top memory. It overshines everything else. Again, you had the trusting life up till now, but because this happens, it overshines everything here. We would like that life back, but we can't unknow what happened. So from now on, it will be an everlasting impact. The new story stands there. Like post-traumatic stress, people with post-traumatic stress, you cannot just turn it off and take the memory away and just throw it out there. It stays with them, moving onwards, right? And that's what I talk. First of all, I believe that out of worrying, religion can be birthed. That the idea of needing a God or a protector when I know I'm not safe. When I now know I'm not safe, I need something out there to protect me, right? That could be where this idea of, the whole idea of divination actually comes, this idea that there's something bigger out there that actually can impact us in a radical way, and I have no control over that. So there could be that out of worry here, we are now wondering if there is some place where I can relax in church, right? And furthermore, the stories, the memories that have now been created, that cannot be undone. I still have to deal with the fact of this, like this idea that this is fact. And it shook me to my core, and therefore I need to find some kind of explanation. That there must be some kind of explanation here, why this is here, right? That God has a plan or something. There is something for me to know, to look for. And there is this reaching for some kind of answers somehow. Needing to grow these atlas, expand your intuition, right? I would see the Sagittarius could be like the medicine man in a tribe. Needing to reach this, like the door to spirit here, needing to talk to the ancestors, right? Becoming the shaman of the tribe here, needing to be the one who can figure something out, find the explanation, right? Find the explanation, like find meaning in this giant chaos, why I had this experience. So I believe you are the truth teller, but again, you have to be mindful about what truth you are telling. Are you telling the story of Nostradamus? Like the unavoidable doom for all humanity and Earth. That suddenly light is switched off and the planet explodes and we are all dying, Is that the headline that overshines everything else? Is the headline that you have now devoted your entire life to the gods? Or to your ancestors, to a shamanistic or a high priest spirit practice here? Do you sit in prayer now all day? Do you become the philosopher? Are you the storyteller in your family? Are you a news reporter? Are you a journalist? Are you a narrator? Are you like sports news reporter or something, someone who looks for headlines in some way. Does that make sense? But again, I feel like if you were a journalist, you are not a normal just sports news reporter. No, you look for the story behind the story. Like there is something deeper to be discovered, like you would be the one that you are not just making like writing an article about a new, let's say, there is a new factory being built in your area, and you are the reporter on the newspaper, and you can make an article on that factory. Let's have this idea that this is to the outside world, this is presented as a green factory, meaning it's environmentally aware. It has a production that is in alignment with the restrictions of environmental care. There is no the waste that may come from the factory is dealt with in a ecological way, in a good environmentally safe way. That's the story of, that's how the promotion comes from the factory, right? You would go for the mess, like you would go for, okay, let's see if this is actually true, right? You would look for the story behind the story. So either they are actually doing that, and there is a story of doom that supports it, right? That would be the story you were interested in here. Or you are finding that it's not real, right? You find out the waste they have, they just dump it in the sea, right? Like that would be the story that you see, the sea behind it. Like you would be the one that is interested in the story behind it, right? So out of worry, we have caution, second guessing, mistrust perhaps, or dealing with this, can I trust or can I not trust because this happened, right? And there's this damage control of just trying to keep ourselves together after something like that. So keep our footing, like keep ourselves moving, but now everything is unsafe somehow, right? Whom to trust also, right? So there could be a big trust issue with the coyote here, like who can I've experienced this in extreme betrayal in my family or in at my work situation. So when I'm going out there and applying for a new job, how can I make sure this is not happening again? Right? That how can I see through, or like, can I somehow figure out if it's going to happen again? If I go dating again, will I end up with an abusive lover again? Like, or how can I somehow, and you can't. The only thing you can do is that you can somehow grow your intuition. You can grow your high priestess here, or you can ask that you are guided, right? You can ask that, you could say, some talk about a guardian angel, right? You can ask your guardian angel, right? It's like that something should advise me, or could I have an advice from someone? Because I have this story that overshines everything. And now I'm in this new work situation, or I'm at this gathering with my family, and I know that they have betrayed me somehow, and I don't actually like being here, right? So how do I move on from this, right? What can I trust now? And it's like this, as I said, this, out of this, religion could be born, right? Out of this, there is an understanding that maybe there's more to life, something that I can't control. And if that's happening, what is that? What is this thing then that is there, that can kind of come through from time to time and maybe put this in my way, right? That actually I have no control over this. Door to spirit here, right? This idea that from being perhaps the only one in your awareness, that you concentrated about your day-to-day life, your hobbies, what you like to do, the fun you could have, now suddenly you have an awareness on something else outside of you. So there is like an inside, and then there is an outside, right? Like a bigger awareness about something outside of you that potentially could have an impact on you. So there is something that potentially could have a negative or a threatening impact on you, but there could also be God who could protect you, right? Or a goddess, or a deity, something that we are worshiping or we're praying to, right? Because we need that certainty somehow, or guidance. We ask for guidance. So out of a massive hit, something else can be grown, I want to say, established in your awareness. And again, what kind of headline what is the most massive story in your mind that it overrules other stories? What is that story? I think you should become aware of that, especially if it's very traumatic, because it rules your behavior. It rules whether you can actually conduct yourself and keep yourself together, or you fall apart. You know, like there's a story that overshines everything, the biggest one. You know, the story of Adam and Eve. If you deep down have a belief in that story and you are a woman, you would also have an imprint of being a sinner or a temptress. Because you're the reason that Adam took the bite, and now both of you are out of the Eden garden, and there is no safety there. If you're the man, you could blame the women, right? Because she was the one who tempted you to take the bite of the apple you shouldn't have taken a bite of, because God already said so. So, you know, it can change our views on those around us, ourselves. And again, it can be hidden, like it's something you've been, if you grew up in a very religious family, for instance, maybe this story has been told so many times, you know it, like you know it's there, but what has it created? You know, what kind of imprint does it give you? Every time you open up to see the news, they come in with some kind of that's how it creates big headlines. The coronavirus, viral pandemic, warning, 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 right? When something becomes extremely big like that, we get all scared. And, oh, now it's here again, right? This fatal thing. And all our worries come up again here, and we must cover ourselves, we must stay in, we must, all kinds of, and of course we should. Like, it was a real threat to our life, right? Our human life, it was a threat to us and our health and everything. Many people died of this virus, so it was not like it was not a false threat. But many also survived. Even before the virus, even before the vaccines came. There has even been a big debate about how good those vaccines actually were. So yeah, many people died, but many people also survived. So which story about, for instance, the corona pandemic, which one is prevailing in your mind? Which one is most dominant? Do you see the difference? Like, there are many stories, right? Let's say the story of Hitler. Like, this whole idea of whites are better than blacks or Jews or any other, but it's only a certain species of humans that can ever be considered real, and everything else should be destroyed. So the Irish race was preferred and something else was not. And he went to war. He created, Germany was a war machine. He created work, employment in a very poor country. That's the reason why this could even be, right? It's because people were living at a poverty rate. And when someone comes in and tells you, I can give you work, but yeah, you were working, you earned money, you could feed your children, your family. But what kind of trouble came with it? Right? What kind of trouble came with that? And when Hitler was defeated, the German people had to wake up to actually face what was going on. And everyone around them hated them, the Nazis, right? Now the German people they were outcasts, so to speak, right? Untrustworthy and outcasts. They had been hypnotized, lured in by promises of something. But the deeper truth underneath everything was devastating. So if you are a Jew or you come from Jew experience, the story about Hitler probably has a headline, right? Especially if you had family that were killed in the work camps in Germany, right? If you are German today, I know the story is not the same as it was, but I think that there can still be prejudice how that could happen, right? So you see, like when the story becomes big enough and it's so revolting, right? That it is so unfair, so dramatic, so evil, right? And when something becomes that, it kind of, it stays with us somehow. Somehow we tend to remember the bad things more than the good things. It's also not, when you look at the news, you have more negative stories than you have good stories. Oh, we had a local hero winning the gold Olympics medal. Yeah, that stays, yay, for a few weeks, and then you get all the other stories. Doom, 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 right? All the things we can't trust, all the things we can't, the warnings, the warnings, the warnings, right? All the things we can't eat because it's polluted or whatever, it contains too much sugar, or all these kinds of like stories that can keep us unsafe, right? That somehow when we listen to them, we are unsafe, right? That, oh, there's all these problems around me, right? And how can I go about life? Because I have experienced a problem. So when I hear all these warnings, they impact me differently than when before. Like before this happened, I had even maybe I didn't even have an awareness about something, about, let's say, diet or something. And then you are hit and struck by diabetes, and from that day forward, now your life has changed. You cannot eat the same. You have to be aware. You have to count. You have to like check your blood vitals, right? You are now dependent on medicine for the rest of your life. You know, life is not the same. So what kind of stories do you keep that overshines everything else? Are they worries? Or are you aware, are you aware of them? And you know where they come from, like you know where the origin is of something here. Because it can stop you, right? It can stop you from having maybe a more relaxed life, a more peaceful life, if we are constantly, like looking over our shoulder here. The last card on the table here, I have the Page of Gabriel here, which is like the Page of Wands. He stands there with one wand. And this is what I feel like represents like the news story. And that's why I also talk about the storyteller or the news reporter here. Like, you are that news reporter. This is how you use your fire to be this news reporter. It is a page, so it's young. It's a new thing. And that's what I feel like, Sagittarius. You were the one who became the storyteller. You became the storyteller here. Or the philosopher. Maybe you're the one who also tries to come in with, like, yeah, even though we have experienced this hit here, there is help, right? That you can pray to God here. You can become religious. You can be there is relief, right? There is relief here. Relief is here if you choose something, right? This can be, like the storyteller that wants to come in and break the cycle of, well, you want to tell the truth about a situation. If there is literally betrayal, like the factory I mentioned, right? If they are actually dumping their waste in the sea and pollutes it even more, then you would be the one who wants to come in and spill this truth. Say it, right? But it's also the other way around, that if the news is warning us constantly about all kinds of things that could go wrong in our life, I would say that you could also be the one that comes in and says, what if the media is a propaganda to keep us all in fear mode, to have control over us? So every time they say that, oh, there is an outbreak of salmonella with chickens, nobody is buying chickens. Because we were warned, right? We could become sick. It could or suddenly there is this information campaign that butter and fat is the problem of all diseases in the world. Oh, now we have to go on diet. We have to reduce sugar, we have to reduce fat. And I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but do you get my point? Like, when the media tells you something, and the more breaking story or headline, the more impact it can have if you allow it in. If you allow it in, even the message I'm telling you now, right? If you allow it in, it's like you've opened your receptors. You have opened your receptors to receive some kind of information, and that information is now somehow in there. So when we look at something, whether it's the news or something on YouTube or, I don't know, any kind of story, if you follow people on Instagram or something, just know that as long as you kind of sit there and watch it and listen to it, you're kind of opening yourself to the information. So let's say you follow some kind of health or a beauty guru, right? And they tell you about how they are trimming their body and they look hot and so on. And you want to be like them. So you follow what they are saying. Maybe they are, promoting certain products. So now you buy them. You follow a certain diet. You buy certain kinds of foods. Do you get my point? It's like the story, that the headline that is most important overshines everything else. So even if you as a child, you grew up and you were treated quite well with your parents, you had confidence, you went out there. That was your headline. I have confidence, I'm going out there, yay, life is great, and so on. And now you have this hit. And from that moment, this is now the headline that overshines everything. It can even take away the confidence. Do you understand? Like, that's what I feel like is here. That's what the reading wants to say. Like, after some kind of massive impact, things changes. And I believe that those zodiac signs that are on the other half, the last half of the zodiac, they know this more deeply. It's more present somehow in their awareness. And there can be this distinction of, maybe I decide what kind of truth I want to walk with here. Like he walks with one hand, one kind of truth here. Or you could say his willpower, his fire, fuels only the path that is right for him. Maybe it's a religious path. Maybe it's a path of being a philosopher, the revealer, the truth teller. If you literally work with media and correspondence or something, communication like that, I believe you would be the one that You look for the story behind the story. That normal marketing doesn't work for you, right? Like you don't just take it for face value. You know that there's something behind it, right? Any person who comes in on YouTube and they say that they are here to help you, they are here to make you feel good, but you have to buy their product or their course or something. Well, yeah, they probably do want you to feel better. They probably do want you to heal, but they also want to earn money, right? They want to sustain themselves by selling this to you. And, well, it's not necessarily bad. It's just that for you, Sagittarius, I believe that it's like you see that behind it, there is a motivation or intention behind everything that people do. And because it's so yeah, they could be real great motivational speakers. They could have great success. They could look great, like they could present great. But behind it, there is another truth. And that truth, I think you can see that, right? You are aware that an obstacle can be there, not to fear it necessarily. That could be the first response. We get totally, again, unprepared. We have this massive rock in our head. We get thrown to the ground and we fear it. If you have been thrown off your bike, now you can tell, I never bike again, right? I never get on a bike again, because that's no, right? That's dangerous now. Now it's dangerous. Up till now it has not been, but now it is, right? So if that becomes the headline, you won't bike again. You will walk, take the bus or something. You won't bike. Unless you tear that headline down, unless you take it and you look at it and you say, okay, I fell off my bike, but I have been biking for the last 40 years without any problem. So do I want this one story to change maybe thousands of other stories? Is that fair? For me, if I actually like biking, so there is something to be learned from when we get a hit, or when we hear a story, to figure out, okay, maybe there's truth to this. Maybe there isn't. Or is it possible, even if I get a hit, to actually get to a point where I feel just as happy as I were here? Even though I have this awareness, I am still happy and grateful here. Is that possible? That could be you could say what you want to use your willpower on, like you want to perhaps prove or find evidence that it is possible to stand straight again. It is possible to go out there again. The Page of Wands could be this feeling of carpe diem, right? That I am the young person with my willpower intact and I go out there, right? So becoming discerning about your headlines, I want to say. So those you have internally, those you speak also here. Throat chakra, identity, and what you speak, the hot chili, right? That whether you recognize that this was not just a trickster, but actually a sacred trickster. That when something comes in, it's because there is an opportunity to turn something around, see something more, and learn from it. And to see if we can actually establish something else here. Love after love, right? There's one awareness and one way of loving or being here, and then there's another, but it can be just as fulfilling, maybe even more, especially when you know this. Like here we take everything for granted. After this we don't. But that actually maybe intensifies everything, right? So now I'm here. I was going to the beach bathing, and it was fun. Now I'm not just bathing, I'm actually maybe eternally grateful that God has created the beach, that this is available for me. You know, like that's what I feel like with this. Like there becomes this, like a real deep of kind of truth to something. That this is actually here. Here I was smelling the roses, they were fine. Here I'm smelling the roses. I'm like really tuning in on the rose. I feel the texture of the leaves. And yeah, I'm smelling it, but I take my time, right? That's also one of the things that comes with like becoming older and everything, that the pace becomes a bit slower, eventually very slow. Pisces, the end, you would say the wise elder, but those that are in the process of leaving, eventually it becomes very slow. But in the slow you find grace in a different way than you do when you're hasty. The quick life of, like the young. In the quick life of the young, sometimes grace can disappear. Focus becomes a little more, I want to do this and this and this and this, right? But when you're on the other side here, at least there is an ability, or with the turnaround here, there is an ability to kind of stop and maybe also make choices about what's really important. What's really important. And maybe slowing the pace down, like slowly but surely just slowing the pace down. And when you do that, you actually become more feminine also. You become more feminine. You can open your senses more, your intuition more here. We say that Pisces, the last sign, is the most spiritual, most open sign of all the zodiacs. There's a reason for that, because the pace is slow, or maybe not moving. Like you are maybe you're in a bed, you can't move. You're sick, you're ill, something. Then you're not moving. You're actually becoming more and more passive. So there's an active life, bang. Then there is a decline towards a more passive life. And this is where you step into yin energy. You step into passiveness. So the baby that is born cannot walk yet, somewhat passive, but still wanting to. The change, and then you could say the decline more and more towards a more passive state, a release and leaving, right? That would be what we know about life. So the awareness, and maybe even, first of all, choosing, becoming more aware of what you really want in this life, what actually really matters, not what's fashionable and all this stuff, but what you want, and then actually taking it in, like as I said with the rose, it's not just, oh, thank you for the rose, great, thank you, oh, it's beautiful, and so, no, you look at it, you smell it, you're appreciative that it actually exists, that it's a thing here, that you can see it and touch it, and maybe it has a symbolism, like there's a deeper meaning with the rose, right? You touch the soft leaves of the rose, you can, maybe you paint it, like maybe you photograph it, like it becomes more than just buying a rose. When you go to the beach, it's you are there with all your senses. Or you are there with all your poetry. Like you're not just on the beach with your friends. No, you are there maybe alone. Maybe you choose to go there alone or just with one friend, right? Because when I bathe, it's not just bathing and like diving and having fun, playing with some kind of ball in the water or something. No, it's more than that. The water represents something. Does it make sense, right? That it's like there's another wisdom, another truth, another will that you put behind your actions. You start to put, after you get over the hit here, if you get over it, because it is a challenge here, whether you actually can see through it, right? If some people stay in it, they never get through it, they never get to see, they just feel like a victim, they feel that a doom hit them, they never get through it. Some get through it, and from that point on, it's like there's a totally different awareness about life before the doom here and after. And there's also I can sit and observe the young, right? I can observe them, and I can sit and I can see, oh, they are in this phase. That's how they conduct themselves, what they are attuned to, what kind of music they listen to, what are their influences, what kind of truth do they have, right? I see them here. And it's fine, because it's part of life to have this. Maybe you have this up till you're 70. Great, beautiful. Maybe you have it up till you're 5. And after 5, you have this other awareness. So what is the headline of your life? How do you want to use your fire here? What truth or will? Your willpower, where do you want to go with it? It says energetic, brave, optimistic, and playful. That is the page of Gabriel here. Can you get to a point after this hit here? Can you get to a point again where you are playful and everything? Life becomes different when you you grow your atlas, when you open your mind up to something here. Like we have here the High Priestess with the 3 phases of the moon, and I talked about that, like the first of them. The first of them usually represents, you could say, of a lived life. For a priestess here, we would say this is the maiden, this is the mother, and this is the crone. So there is these like different steps of life, right? And there can be challenges with all of them, or tricksters here with all of them, right? But the point is that the High Priestess opens to the door of spirit here. So this is now you're dealing with something entirely different that maybe not that apparent in the first life, part of life. Now something else is here. And this adds something to how you conduct your life from now moving forward. This can help you become energetic, playful, brave again. Right? It can help you in some way. Maybe it can even help you trust again. If you can trust in Jesus, if you decide to, if you haven't been religious before, now you're suddenly devoting yourself to the idea of Jesus, because he is what we would call a good energy, a healer energy. And you decide to devote yourself to that Jesus is with me. And because he's with me, I can maybe be brave and playful and energetic again. I can trust again. Otherwise, I'm living in this retracted, closed down version of myself. So I need something to assist me to get out of this stage or that state of being, to somehow have this new happy life again. Does it make sense? Like, for the coyote here, it says here, are you being seduced by what you think you desire? Could it be that the more superficial, sparkly, shiny aspects of your ambition let you... could it be that the more superficial, sparkly, shiny aspects of your ambition led you in this moment where something happened, right? Perhaps you feel that in order to get what you desire, you have to compromise yourself, control others, or manipulate situations to ensure your goal is met. Coyote howls in the shadows to remind you that this may be a lesson too painful to learn. Be aware that shallow waters, be aware of the shallow waters right now. Something or someone might pretend to be deep, but that doesn't make them so. No matter how seductive their superficial traits or how beautiful or sparkly they appear, all the glitter that will not turn up gold, no matter how many wishes you make to change that. There's definitely more to learn, more to see, or more to understand than just what's in front of. This is what I feel like the youth could be seduced by this. Like they're seduced by that. If people just look great, they must be great, right? I can trust them. But here, like when you get to a certain age or you have had a hit, you know that there's more. Sometimes we can even get to the point where, I remember when I was younger, my father, he liked gardening. But he was also the person who wanted a very beautiful garden and very controlled garden, you would say. So the weed had to be gone. And to do that, he used certain kinds of poisons. So to get it like he wanted it, to have his way, he used poison to kill something. And I know probably many householders or who have gardens, they use certain remedies from time to time, right? But this can be more or less obsessive. Some have very organized and very like clean gardens, you could say, or gardens where there is no weed or anything. Like it looks very planned and structured and everything. And then you have others who have like wild gardens. But I never thought about it when I grew up. I just played in the garden like any other child. I never thought about this idea that it was. I figured that this is just what a garden is. I didn't know anything about the work it may take to actually keep a garden, or what kind of remedies could be used or might be used, or not used. So it's only when I became an adult and I had my own house with a garden that I figured out, okay, there's actually work to be done here, and it requires something, and it requires also for me to make a decision. How do I want to keep my garden, right? Because do I want to fill it with a lot of poison to keep some weed away? Actually, also certain weeds, so-called weed, or like undesired plants in the garden, they are actually, they have like really good, they could be remedies for certain ailments. Some of the oil they contain, or they can contain certain healthy like vitamins, or something that can actually heal certain things in us. But my father poisoned them away. You know, like it's like when you realize that there's something more to be known, more to. And he is over 80 now, my father, and he has just now, he's actually, I can hear that he's changing some of his ways. Like he has become more aware that maybe it's not that good to use all that poison, right? And maybe he should change his ways. Maybe you can have, you can do differently, or his garden could look differently. Because we have also been aware that our insects are disappearing, right? So now it's actually quite okay to have a wild garden, because it attracts more insects, right? Then you are actually doing good for the planet. You are doing good, even though your garden is growing wild or something like that, right? So it's just recently, like he's kind of, I can see kind of he's waking up to like, okay, I never thought about this, you know? He never thought about it. He never questioned his ways. But now he's questioning, like I can see and hear that when he talks about the garden, that he still may hold on to some old ways, but he's also questioning himself, right? So that's what I feel like. Again, it depends on where you have Virgo in your chart. Some may first see this, have the hit of something. They may first have that when they are in their later years, like maybe when they are 70 or something. Some may have it as early as in childhood. And they live then most of their life in this awareness. Whether they overcome this, or they live in the victimhood or the suffering of it, is up to you. But that's how do you use your energy here? And what kind of headline is your truth? And is it even truth? Like the real truth of everything? Is it a truth? And then you can decide what to do with that truth, or how you conduct yourself around that truth. If Coyote calls to you, this is a time to pay special attention to detours and disappointments, as they are true tests of faith. You have set your intention and turned them over to the Great Spirit. Yet you may find yourself lost and confused when it appears you are being led off course, off the path, leading to your most cherished dreams and desires. Remember this: Coyote is a sacred trickster and may be leading you into challenges to ensure that you are ready to handle what you've set in motion. Great growth and understanding come to you when Coyote calls your name. So it's a test of faith also. I talked about in the Virgo reading that it was the card Ace of Gabriel that was almost destroyed in that former Virgo reading. The Ace of Gabriel talks about positive emotional experiences, fulfilling romantic relationships, and deep spiritual insights. And it was almost destroyed. So it means that we could be tested about these areas. We could be tested about our spiritual connection and insights and intuition. We could be tested around relationships, fulfilling relationships. We could be tested about feeling joyful and happy and trusting. So these areas could be where the test is hardest. The test of faith. Faith also comes with the sense of divinity, God, something bigger. We have faith in others, we have faith in God, we have faith in ourselves. So again, the storyline, the headline that kind of overshines everything else, which one is that? Can you keep your faith? Couldn't you keep your faith? Was your faith destroyed? Was your happiness destroyed? Your relationship? Your intuition? Did you second guess everything after this kind of disaster or change? And can you overcome it? Like, can you look for further information or knowledge behind it? Again, if it keeps you in a victim mode here, you are not learning how to be a victor. You learn how to be a victim, but not a victor. But the victor experience could actually be what the test is about. Have you faith in yourself enough to get through this, to become the victor of this experience? Or do you stay in the suffering? So you were a lover up till here, and you had your heart broken. So now you have built walls around your heart. Can you become a lover again? Can you tear down your armor and trust again enough to give love a chance? Can you do that? Or do you stay as the victim with the broken heart, licking your wounds here behind your titanium walls, and you stay there forever? It's the headline. Like, if it's considered too dangerous, that I barely got out there. That's what I talked about in the Scorpio reading, that he took the leftovers of this massive hit. He took the leftovers that were still laying there, lifeless, and he hid it in like at the deepest bottom of the sea, where only the whales can come, and himself, right? So that only only very few energies could touch it, right? And he was doing the heart massage because he didn't want it to leave. He didn't want it to go. it represented this life before the hit, right? And he couldn't accept that it was gone. So he took the remains and hid it and hoped that it could heal, that it could somehow, if he did everything, the heart massage and everything, that it could somehow revive again and live again. But you may ask yourself, again, there was this comparison in the Scorpio reading, because there was a life before, and then there is an awareness, a hit that cannot be undone, and then there's a life after. So if you're constantly comparing with something that was, so comparing your body with what was, comparing your health with what was, comparing your knowledge about love and relationship with what was before the hit, this idea of getting it back in that version is probably not like really accessible. It will be different, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. As I just said, the experience with the rose, like, it becomes different. There could be more grace here. That could be more faith or godlight here. If you allow it to, right? If you take your time to explore the rose or the beach, or you let your senses guide you also. You trust because you believe in Jesus or any other helper. It's a different life. It's a 2.0, right? 1.0 and then 2.0. 1.0 crash and then 2.0. But here it's a different experience than it is here. Here you have the awareness of this. You didn't have it here. Right? So here you are living your life with this awareness, and still with grace, still with godlight perhaps, still maybe with trust. So you have grown, right? You are, here you were unaware, here now you are aware, and still loving your life perhaps, still opening your heart, still trusting. I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but I'm moving towards that, definitely. But you see, it's what kind of headline is controlling your identity and your thoughts and everything. And they can be quite hidden. Like, scientists say that we use around, consciously when we are awake, we use maybe around 5-10% of our brain. The rest is subconscious. The rest is hidden. We can't access it when we are awake. When we sleep, we have access to some of it. But and when we wake up, we may remember parts of a dream. But that's actually it. You don't really have access otherwise to your subconscious or unconscious brain. So it means that we live a life with just access to a very little part of what we actually know or remember. That's what I talk about, the inheritance, this. I believe that many of the stories that we can read, like fairy tales or crime novels or something like that, they are not just like the imagination of some author. No, it's a memory. I believe it's a memory. Some are recalling it. And some of the fun, good times, maybe the childlike, like child fairy tales, they could be authors who have access to some of the first zodiacs. And then we have the doom, Dracula and everything. It comes from the other side, right? There's a memory there. some can just recall, like they have this instinct, the dream or something. They have like an inspiration of something. I just don't think it's out there. I believe it comes also from the subconscious mind, because something is stored there. We just normally don't have much access to it. So all the films on Netflix about meteor impact or killer whales, or all kinds, it's part of some kind of memory. That's what I believe. And it's so distinct between fairy tale, magical, childlike fairy tales, and then the doom, right? Like there is this, and there is a hero and a villain, and yeah, um, and we love the hero, but we also sometimes actually also really love the villain. There's something about that, right? That we can't kind of and actually in this case it feels a little bit like I should tell you that maybe you should like the villain a little bit, whatever this disruption or detour was, that maybe you should like them a little bit for what they created for you. They got you to wake up, right? They got you to smell the coffee and actually realize something around you. So they opened up another layer for you to see in this world. And it may have felt like a disaster, a real like a threat, big threat, and it probably was. But it doesn't mean that you're supposed to stay in it, right? It doesn't mean that it's here. What is it? Isn't there a saying that God will not present you with a burden that you can't overcome, or something like that? That you will not be faced with something that God doesn't have faith in you, that you can overcome and grow from this. In the spiritual realm, there's this idea that we incarnate here as souls. Souls incarnate in a human body here, having a human experience. But it is to grow and learn something. Whether it's good or bad, we are here to learn and grow from something, experience something, have knowledge of it, feeling it, touching it, smelling it, and then we take that awareness with us back, putting it into the Akashic records. Check mark, done that. Then I have a new incarnation, learn something new. Like, and there is no distinction between whether it's good or bad. Our human existence, though, is very different. We are very much aware whether something is good for us, safe, or whether it's bad and threatening for us. Because our life depends on it. Our existence depends on it. As I said, there's a life before the doom and one after. It allows you to have two lives in one. And I don't know where it happens, like maybe you have this weeks before you die. Maybe you have it very early. Maybe you have it midlife. Again, this Virgo energy, it depends on where. If you have it in the second house, I believe it could be, like in your childhood. I have a Virgo moon, and the moon energy is in astrology. It talks about it relates to the mother, it relates to the child. That the moon also relates to like inner child experience. So I definitely believe that my hit was in the childhood region, around 6 years old. And from that moving forward, I've been living my life with a new awareness, right? Being very terrified, living in absolute fear and submission, but learning over the years to perhaps change that, right? But it has taken me a long time, right? And I've had no guidance. Nobody was guiding me. Today, God, I'm happy that we have these channels, because like YouTube and other ways of communicating with each other, because I grew up in a family that was not religious, not spiritual, nothing. I had no one who could guide me. And therefore, I'm very happy that there is a way of communicating stuff. That's why I do what I do here. And again, I can only do this to the point of my own awareness, my own healing. I will always suggest that you take that in mind, whoever you listen to. Again, the story, what is playing in your mind here? What rules your mind? What kind of narrative rules your mind? It's always important, because it creates your identity. It creates what you have faith in, what you trust and what you're not trusting, what you speak highly of and what you speak not highly of, the things you eat, the things you are scared of or fear, the things that give you anxiety, the things that give you joy. It rules everything. And it's a way of, when it kind of spins in there, it's with the law of vibration and the law of attraction, you are attracting or repelling something from your life. So if you deep down with the Adam and Eve story relate to the fact that you are a temptress, a bad person, you have led Adam on in despair, you're the reason for our problems in the world, then you are a sinner. If that's deep down your belief, it rules something. You're doing things in a certain way because of it. That's why the news stories are important, and what kind of truth. What kind of truth are you devoted to? And is it a good thing? Like, if you have a fantastic life, you probably don't listen to me, right? Like, if you live a joyous, amazing life here, everything going for you, total success and everything, you're probably not listening to this. But if you're not, maybe something is playing in your mind that is attracting things that are not helpful for you. And you need to become aware of it and change something. I hope it makes sense. I'm stopping the reading now for you. I'm 2 hours in, so and I hope I got the message through of that out of worry and problems can actually be built, right? That you can build new after a hit or disaster, but you have to become aware of it. Yeah, that's what I have. I hope this helps somehow, Sagittarius. Take care of yourself out there. Love and light to you.